Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking Canada's completely fascinating and honestly super paradoxical approach to the looming AI labor shock. If you've been following the global conversation around automation and job displacement, you know countries everywhere are scrambling for solutions. Well, Canada has actually done something none of its peers have managed, yet their ultimate strategy remains a total mystery. It brings us to a really massive question. What exactly happens when a country goes ahead, builds the ultimate post-labor safety net, proves that it works flawlessly on a national scale, and then just throws it away? Seriously, this isn't some hypothetical thought experiment. It actually happened, and it tells us a lot about the friction between bold ideas and the realities of governing.
Part 1. The Basic Income Proof.
To really grasp Canada's position on the map of AI preparedness, we've got to look back at their lightning-fast response to the crisis in 2020. For a brief stretch, through the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, usually just called CERB, the government rapidly pumped out $2,000 a month directly to citizens. For a moment, it was the closest any G7 country has ever come to a true basic income.
And the sheer scale here was absolutely staggering. We're talking about reaching roughly 8 million people in just a matter of weeks. They completely bypassed the usual bureaucratic red tape and means testing that normally bogs government programs down to an absolute crawl. It was fast, it was near universal, and it treated people with dignity.
It basically proved the concepts that experts usually only debate in the abstract. The operational rails actually exist. A rich federated democracy actually can stand up fast, near universal cash support when it decides to. It is 100% operationally feasible. But then, almost as quickly as it arrived, the program ended, exactly as intended. The emergency passed, and the safety net was packed away in a box.
Part 2. A Pattern of Rehearsals. Now, putting away that safety net wasn't just a one-off event. It highlights this fascinating national habit Canada has of proving massive, forward-thinking things work and then slowly backing away from them. Just look at the timeline. In 2017, Canada is a genuine AI research superpower, publishing the world's very first national AI strategy. 2020 hits, and the CERB rollout proves near universal basic income is possible. But then look at what follows. The province of Ontario ran a basic income pilot only for a new government to cancel it early. A federal guaranteed income framework gets debated across multiple parliaments but never gets enacted. And then in 2025, ADA, the country's attempt at a comprehensive AI law, collapses and dies. So you've got an AI research leader with absolutely no AI rulebook.
It leaves them in this incredibly bizarre state, perfectly summarized by this quote: each one a rehearsal, the lines learned, the staging blocked, the performance called off. Canada has gathered more real-world evidence about the post-labor toolkit than almost anyone else on the planet, yet they operate like this elaborate theatrical production that never quite makes it to opening night. They commit to almost none of it.
Part 3. The logic behind caution.
So why the hesitation? Well, it's really not a failure of nerve. It comes down to hard math. If you compare total federal personal income tax revenue, which sits at around $217 billion, against the high-end cost estimates for a universal basic income, which can stretch over $600 billion a year, yeah, the math genuinely does not close. You literally cannot fund that kind of universal program without completely dismantling and rebuilding the existing welfare and tax systems from the ground up.
And it's not even just about the money. It's the constraint of federalism. In a federated system like Canada's, income support and AI governance don't just sit nicely with one central authority. They straddle federal, provincial, and Indigenous jurisdictions, which means the hardest part of any sweeping response isn't designing the policy, it's getting everyone to commit to it across divided jurisdictions. Often, Ottawa simply cannot force the whole country to adopt a single framework.
So instead of those massive universal programs, Canada opts for categorical guaranteed income. It targets specific vulnerable groups, making it way cheaper and much more politically durable in a way that broad universal programs rarely are. The philosophy is pretty straightforward. Fix the thing we have rather than try to build the thing we can't afford. Caution in this context is a highly deliberate strategy.
Part 4. The categorical blind spot.
While that targeted strategy makes perfect sense on paper, it leaves a really dangerous gap when we introduce the threat of artificial intelligence. See, Canada has actually built incredibly robust income floors under children, seniors, and the disabled, using things like the Canada Child Benefit, the Guaranteed Income Supplement, and the Canada Disability Benefit. It's a strong safety net, but take a look at working-age adults. They're left relying on employment insurance, a flexible labor market, and partial retraining programs. That makes them highly vulnerable to an AI shock.
And that reveals the categorical blind spot. The entire system is built on one very quiet, very massive assumption that healthy working-age adults will always be covered by the labor market itself. The state operates as if it only needs to catch the folks the market was never going to employ in the first place: the young, the old, the unwell.
But the whole post-labor question is whether that assumption still holds true. Think about it for a second. If AI automation thins out prime-age work, these healthy adults are going to fall right through the cracks. Those generous, dignified categorical floors, they sit just out of reach because these adults don't fit into those specific boxes. Instead, they are forced into means-tested, work-conditional systems like traditional employment insurance that are literally designed to push them back out into a labor market that is actively shrinking. Canada has built excellent shelter for everyone, except the exact people the AI storm is most likely to hit.
Part 5. Rehearsals Protect No One. So, the ultimate real-world consequence of this perpetual rehearsal is pretty stark. Canada basically has everything a country could possibly want to face the future. They have the documented evidence that massive cash delivery works, they have the delivery rails to do it, they have an unparalleled AI research base. Most countries would kill for this toolkit. What it has conspicuously not done is make a decision. When the automation shock finally hits, instead of scaling up a standing institution, they'll be re-improvising under immense pressure.
Because, at the end of the day, a rehearsal is not a performance, and proofs that you decline to keep protect absolutely no one when the curtain finally rises. All those pilots, all the debates, all the endless research, none of it softens the blow for the working-age adult whose career is suddenly automated away.
I want to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. Canada's most valuable export right now might just be the proof that a post-labor safety net can actually work. But if the country with the ultimate proof, the deepest research, and the operational rails already built hasn't managed to commit to preparing for the AI labor shock, just how fragile is your own country's post-labor safety net? It's a question we absolutely all need to be asking as we look toward the future of work. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and we'll see you next time.